A little extended Sean Phillips. I don't know if y'all remember Sean Phillips, but I can tell you I do have seen him last, I guess, 1972, then saw him again in 1974. He is a phenomenal singer and songwriter, and wow, that's all I can say. So, favor everyone to everyone that is here. Bosto, be of good cheer. You know, it's like, hey, Nina, what's up, girl? Good to see you. So many people, beloved abstract, elderberry, dragon soul fox, how you doing? Hello, IP Freely, I see you. Balanca, hello, Kenneth. Deborah, what's up? I think I saw David Castle. I know Big Al and Perry are listening. Reality notification, what's up? Hey, Gaia. Yeah, you can't help it not, it's just in me. It's like, and that song particular, We, is just a great song. I mean, Sean Phillips, God, man, brings back some memories. Good times, good times, good times. Hey, Posey, what's up? So how is Amy? Good to see you. And hello, favor to everyone. Absolutely. Happy birthday if you got one. And I know I'm a little bit early, so we'll just sit here and visit. And what else is on? Yeah, please hit the like button. Thank you very much. It's an honor. I appreciate. Thank you, Belanca. Let's see what else is doing. So, yeah, I did. I did elderberry. Yeah, it's what do you do? I mean, Uh, we just speak favor over all that situation and speak abundant prosperity. Who am I to have a birthday? Well, I don't know. Everybody has one, depending on what boat you're in. And apparently, we have a bunch of them. I don't know what the odds would be that if you believe in the recycling program that you're always going to hit the same day. I don't know. It's hard to say. Lots of military activity. Oh, New Jersey, and Nebraska. Something's up. I got to tell you. Um, Check out the Steiger perspective tonight on artistfirst.com. 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. my time here in the mountain. Tonight's theme is the slippery slope. I think the biggest thing, and I'll just let y'all know about it, and you need to tune in to hear about it. But here is the thing: we're studying about entities taking our authority, stop being the ass end of every spirit, demonic, angelic, whatever. You know, we're about to take the captain's chair and write this whole vessel up. But in any case, get this. So the IRS, and I'm not kidding on this, has declared that God is a Republican. Well, come on, tribe. Let's just do the logic of this. So if they're saying God is a Republican, then if you're a Democrat, you worship Satan. I mean, that's how it works. I mean, God can't be both, according to the IRS. So now we know that if you're a Democrat, you worship Lucifer. You are a Luciferian, you're a Satanist. And that is, you see, this is why politics is dangerous. And then it means if you're a Republican, I guess you're whatever God that is. I don't know. And then if you're like myself, an independent, what does that make us? Agnostics? I don't know. But I kid you not. How anyway, tune in tonight and it gets a little more interesting. Uh I see. I knew this was going to happen. Exactly. I mean, come on, you don't have to be that aware or awake to go, okay, so let me see this out. Yeah. And I mean, it'll take you down the rabbit hole deeper. Uh, okay. Bump, 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 bump. Um, Yeah, politics. I mean, it is the epitome of the duality in action. And speaking of duality, so lots of emails on this. And folks, I don't have the book I was reading from yesterday, and we're going to go refer back to it because a lot of people were asking, well, can you show us what it has to say about curses? Yeah, yeah. But remember, if a curse is actually, and curses they are real. You can be, in fact, I can say this, most people curse themselves. It's true. You ever heard someone talk about themselves? Um, I knew a guy, he was actually the manager of this place where I was working at. And when he would get angry, he would curse himself. He said, I will be goddamn. And then many times in meetings, he said, I will be damned. And people do it all the time. And I always marvel and I'm going, well, why would you want to damn yourself? That's a curse. That's what you're doing. I've seen people that when their car exhibits signs of not working properly will curse the car. Why, you goddamn worthless piece of shit. And they want to know why all their stuff breaks all the time. It happens. And all of you know this as well. This, and maybe it's you. I don't know. But it's quite remarkable to hear this. And then I guess if you break down the word God damn, you have to ask yourself, why would God damn or curse anything? But he did. It says that he cursed the earth. I wonder if that could be potentially extrapolated out to the metaphor, or better yet, the allegory of God and Lilith. I mean, he cursed the earth and he cursed woman. He cursed Eve. Now, wait a minute. So, who is the good one here and who is the bad one? I mean, it gets really weird when you start thinking about this. So, um, beloved abstract, exactly. He cursed his own work. Isn't that amazing? Uh, so I thought we would go back and kind of see what Lilith had to say about this. I think everyone can agree what Lilith says in the Liber Lilith is interesting. So this is how she says, this God that is the one projected by the majority of the psychic energy of the species Homo sapiens sapiens. Now, she said that the mother was Babylon. Now, we know what happened about Babylon. Babylon screwed up. She went behind the autogen, the supreme, and tried to create life herself. And what she thought she was creating was her image. What came out was this God Yahweh, the Elohim, however you want to put it, the God Samael. Lilith was made out of the substance of the prince of the archons. And here is that word substance again. Remember when I told you what faith is? Right? Nothing wrong to refer to, a book, because if it gives a good definition. This case, I learned this from Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So Lilith was made out of the substance of the prince of the archons. I don't know what that is, but there seems to be a great deal of importance on substance. And I don't think that we recognize that. Samael and Lilith are one flesh. Lilith can appear again as male to seduce women, as she can produce, also, which is known as the slant serpent. Lilith can appear female, seduce men, and then she is known as the convoluted serpent. They're all one. Now that brings on some weird possibilities. All right. By the way, this is one of the earliest depictions of Lilith. Good looking gal, if you ask me. All right. So she is called the Northerner. All evil descends from the north. Now, this is replete through the book of Isaiah, the Old Testament, the Torah, etc. She is known as the blind dragon to steal warmth from the living souls. I can testify to that. And this is important because it leads to where I think where we get these terms demons, daemons, divine ones. She is also known as the blind dragon. She is Lilith, the sinful. Eve is her daughter. Well, that just brings in all sorts of stuff in the story because obviously they cut that out in the finished version they sent out. Samael, the serpent, raped Eve. Lilith and the serpent raped Adam. A lot of raping going on here. And if you think about the story about Homo sapiens, if you want to take it in that direction, if you believe the story of one male, one female, then really the human race is nothing more than an incestuous, lustful race. The only way that we propagated is that we had sex with one another. As I've told you the story in the book of Adam and Eve, Adam said, it was Lucifer who came and had to teach him about sex because Adam was like, well, you want me to go and have what with her? His attitude is, well, wait a minute. Why would I want to fuck myself? And basically, that's what he said. Why would I have coitus with myself? Anyway, Cain is Lilith's first mankind born. Lilith, the ancient, is older than mankind. And here's a very interesting. So Lilith is obviously, and this is just my opinion, is one of the ancient ones. The fallen ones are her offspring, and mankind are brought to her as she nourished them with wormwood. That's kind of weird. Eve is called Lilith, little Lilith, of Lilith the Great, consort of Samael, chief archon. Samael and Lilith are one when manner of appearances. As a female, Lilith is in the form from the navel up as a woman, and from the navel down, she is a serpent with a vagina. Now, this is important because this is where according to Lilith, this is where the demons come from. And they're not really what we have thought, but it's just interesting as it pulls into what else we're going to be looking at. Guyana, the other paradise. So Guyana is really the place of the sleeping dead. That's what it is. Lilith has many forms. She is God. For all intent and purposes, she is God. The male construct is hiding behind a cloud and portraying himself as the singularity of male as God. No. In some forms, the mind of mankind cannot fathom her. It drives them to chaos. One of my relatives, as you know, Carl, drank pipe cleaner. Yeah. There is a story of how all this became this way. It would appear that mankind, in many ways, is the prisoner to these beings. Man, the heavenly man, is still there. This is our ultimate destiny to rejoin and become one. So these are the children of Lilith. See, Lilith is both male and female. This is depiction. Notice the serpent, yeah. So Lilith, the blind dragon, has sex with Samael. This is the first kind. This is the first of what they began to produce in live. And and basically it would appear that they're giving birth to spiritual beings. They only take on the essence later. They're called the authorities, excuse me, also known as kings, Og, the fallen ones. First, from the dragon were produced, born 12 authorities. They are ruled by the supreme authority. Each rules in his own house or his own kingdom in heaven. Is that what we read yesterday? You see how the New Testament, particularly the Pauline epistles, and this is what we know the history of the Library of Lilith, that Paul possessed this book for quite a while. Clues, folks, clues. So we have Athoth, Barmus, Gila, Nobel, Anadonos, Cain, Zebiel, Zebrizna, Nubal, I think that's Zormorphael, Mayfiber, and Bialis. Now, I can tell you, you could call upon these authorities. I don't think it would be wise, but you could. You know their name. If you know their name, you can play their game. That's how the rhyme goes. The second to come forth are the 7 kings authorities. Consecrated them and set them in the 7 heavens. This is really interesting because where else do we find this term, the 7 heavens? Well, I'll tell you where you find it. You find it in, again, the Pauline epistles. He specifically, in his astral travels, and he wrote about them, went to this place that he called heaven, that has 7 kingdoms in it. Well, isn't it a coincidence that we're seeing now that this hierarchy and this structure? And remember, Lilith is not a Christian. She's not a Jew. She's not a Muslim. She's not a Hindu. She's none of that. That's why I take it so seriously. Now, from the highest, their names are, again, Anthoth, who looks like a sheep. Elos looks like an ass, a donkey. Hestaphius, looks like a hyena. And we see this represented particularly over into Mesopotamia, Egyptian, going all the way over again into the east. Neo looks like a serpent with 7 heads. Sabaoth looks like a dragon. Adonai looks like a baboon. And Zebediah looks like a flame. So the 7 archangels are set to rule over all lesser angels, whose number is 365. Each day of the solar year has a demon, has a archon, I guess it would actually be an archon, who rules over that day. It's interesting. And these are the 7 archangels. Many of you know them: Michael, Ariel, Asmodeus. I think that is Cephas, Satel. I don't know. Harmonian, whatever. Interesting names. Rick from Us. Isn't that interesting? So there are the 7. Now you could call upon these. I have no doubt that they, in fact, a great deal of Solomon's magic is focused in on these 7 cats. Yeah. So the 5 spirits are engendered to command the 4 incorporeal powers of the essences of matter, and the 5th power that comprehended the 4th power. almost like reading Pig Latin. So 5 spirits are engendered to command the 4 incorporeal powers of this physical plane. The spirit of heat, we call these the elementals, is the fiery potency who is called, I believe that is, what is that? Biflorara. The spirit of coldness rules the watery potency. The spirit of dryness rules the earth potency. The spirit of moisture rules over the air potency. The spirit of quintessence is the Anthrodorus, excuse me. The quintessence, that's the ether. Now, you can call them these spirits. In fact, I do. Many of us do. All right. So the 5 daemons, demons, rule passions. They include pleasure, desire, fear. Then you have one demon, which is quadripedo, which commands all of them. You can call on these. From these 4 demons spring forth all the passions of the frailty of the flesh. That's why sex is involved in every religion. The Satanists borrowed it from the Jews. The ancient Hebrews in their early days always had temple prostitutes. There was a reason for it. And this custom went into all the rest of them, all throughout Mesopotamia. Again, virtually in every kingdom, you will find in the religious aspects of each kingdom, you're going to find sex at the center. From sorrow comes anxiety, distress, envy, and jealousy. That's an interesting clue. If anybody want to take notes, if you have sorrow, which you may not even realize it, but yet are experiencing anxiety unnecessarily, distress, envy, or jealousy, well, most likely there is a demon behind it. Lesser demons are set over the body. Samael became lonely for the brightness of the Sabrina shining forth from the mother. The same light glows within him, but he hides his breath beneath the veil of his ignorance. Anyway, we will leave this because we've gone through this before. It's well worth going back. If you really have not studied this series, you really should. All right, so we got a pretty good idea that, at least from Lilith's point of view, we have a history. We don't know the time. It appears that these beings exist in a place where time really isn't a factor. Their perception of existence, it's not like how we perceive ourselves. We grow old. They don't. They would be potentially what we would call the immortals. But it's interesting to see Lilith's point of view about demons, because there is so much on this. Now, I have got a literary of, let me pull up this one. So now this is from a more Judeo-Christian Islamic point of view where demons are concerned. And the interesting thing is they're not that far off. They really are not, which tells me that there is a continuity in at least the basic knowledge. Now, here, I thought it was interesting. They're talking about accusation as the Astaroth. Well, this is the God, this is the wife of God. Now, they say it's the Semitic goddess of fertility. And they say that this particular being is over criticism, slander, self accusations. I happen to disagree with this because I was taught this, but when you do the study, you find out it's not quite the story. But anyway, now here is the true Satan. Satan does not exist as a real personification, a personality. We have created it because we believe it. But in actuality, it's right. Satan, all it means is the accuser of the brethren. Addictive. Isn't this interesting? They say, look at the compulsive. See demons related to alcohol, drugs, gluttony, nicotine, medication, caffeine. Well, if these are in fact real demons, well, they've conquered the world. Caffeine is the number one drug in the world. Virtually 7 out of 10 people are on some sort of pharmacy. Nicotine, well, gluttony, drugs. I don't know how drugs are any different from medication, but let me tell you this. There is a powerful demon. And I have seen this Lord. It's an overlord, particularly with the drug methamphetamines, heroin, and cocaine. Those 3 particularly, and the derivatives that come down from that. It is truly vampire. It's vampire of the truest nature. And anyone who's ever known anyone who was on meth, crack, you know what I'm talking about. Alcohol is in fact a very high arc demon. That's why they call it spirits. Our ancestors knew this. And it's really interesting that people who are very susceptible to this arc demon, and it has potentially unlimited amount of imps, is what I call them. And you see this in so many ways. You see people, when they begin to change personalities, it's not the same person. I, at one time, was part owner in a bar and was a good bartender. But I saw it. I mean, I could see it. I could see a person walk through the door and know exactly what was controlling them. And if you study this even further, you begin to see it's like a mass hallway of doors on each side. Anyway, as you can see, adultery, agitation. I always thought this was really interesting. And here he gets into it. Rock music, they're saying it's also escapism, compulsion. Who knows? Allergies. Very interesting, because there are those spirits that you can literally be allergic to. Amulets. So in the Christendom world, I am what they call a black lord. It's yeah, they would like to get rid of people like me, but there's more of me out there, so that's a good thing. Anger. It's interesting. Just thought we'd go through this. The Antichrist, isn't this some fights against Jesus Christ, always accompanied by power and strength? But the problem is there was no person named Jesus. So what are we talking about? And let's just say that there was, then who is Jesus really representing? I mean, if you can't tell me where the Christian God, because there is no Christian God, because there's no Christian God named in any Christian Bible. So who is Jesus Christ's daddy? Who's his daddy? I want to know who his daddy is. Well, if you go by the lineage that they go to great extent in the book of Matthew, this Jesus Christ is the son of a bitch named Yahweh, who is a freaking murderer, genocidal, insane, incomplete maniac. So why would I be giving my life to a Jesus Christ when I can trace who his daddy is? And I don't like his daddy at all. Well, we move on, please. Now here, get this, asthma. All right, boy, I mean, yeah. Now you know it's a sin to practice astral projection. Says the Pyrox, a prince, is able to project 16 minds into one. They say that the Nephilim were the originators. Don't think so. And this is, in this ideology, reincarnation does not exist. Nope. You're here once, and then, as Paul says, you're here to be judged. You can't get into astrology, divination, witchcraft, yada, yada, yada. But my point is, they have taken the time to, in their mind, go and list all of these things as demons. Roman Catholics. Oh boy, this is controversial. Look at this. Candles, Catholic hymns, saints by name, dedication to saints, confessional, confession, confirmation, false baptism, fear of the priest, Saints' Day, Holy Eucharist, Lourdes relics, Fatima, fear of excommunication, incense, mayoralty, Our Lady of Mercedes, Our Lady of Lourdes, Black Madonna, blah, 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 blah. You see this? I mean, if you were just to focus your whole life on all of this, you're going to be one confused puppy. I mean, you're going to get to the point where, you're afraid to step outside because, well, you may be pissing off a demon. I knew I'd get the thumbs down on that one about the Jesus thing. People don't like, but folks, you can not dislike, it's fine. But I'm just telling you, if you do the lineage, how can a person, I had this conversation with a person recently, and they walked away. They said, sadly, their faith had been, person said, destroyed. I said, don't blame that on me. I'm just saying that if there's this savior of the world, then it's God is the Jewish God, the Hebraic God that has no apparently history other than what we find in a cat named Abram. But Abram was Samaritan. So why is Abram, who was a temple priest of Diana, which is Lilith, probably, why did he make this blood covenant with an unknown deity? And that's the problem. This deity comes on the scene where he works in blood. I mean, come on, folks. I mean, that's some powerful magic. That's all I got to say. And then we know the rest of the story in the Old Testament. So if that isn't where this cat came from, then where did it come from? Don't know. We ought to ask these questions. All right. We're not done. Not by a long shot. So to help bring some clarity in what we're talking about, because folks, probably the vast majority of what I have read is in magic and occultism, in religion, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hindu, is by far 95% mental. That's where they live. That's where they grow. In here. Now, the other 5% becomes the serious stuff. So this is kind of a chronology of the principal religions and cultures in this particular book. This is the Dictionary of All Gods, Angels, and Demons. And if you can look at this, you can see our history really is, well, limited. Everything comes from Sumer, the Australian Aboriginals. And it's amazing that their teaching has been purposely blocked, censored out of Western studies. And I'm convinced that they have been here. They may be exactly what they say, the originals. The rest of us are most likely transplants. So we can go back, nearly 4,000 or 5,000 BC, and we can see, the extenuation. Now, the further they extenuate up here in this black line, this is exactly what happens as it infiltrates the other religions of the world. And it's quite interesting. You see the Babylonians, you see the Hindus, you see the Hittites, you see the Greek, you see the Hebrews, you see the Mayans, the Celtics, the Buddhists, the Romans, the African Yoruba, you see the Polynesians, the Nordics, you see Christianity. Christianity is a weird thing because really Christianity is like a real young religion. It has no beginning. It really doesn't. It's a hodgepodge. We would call it a mutt. It's a Heinz 57. But anyway, now all of these gives us what we perceive today as demons, angels, spirits. They're all integrated here. I think the case could be made that most of these deities, these entities, these demigods, demiurges, however you want to call them, are really back here, which lends to the thought most likely they were here before us. I mean, the other alternative would be we made the shit up. And it carries on. And oh, by the way, you can see that. And now in this book, I like this one because this one really is not polluted by the God spell of Christianity. That's some, I keep telling you, there's some powerful magic. Paul was a master magician, most likely a wizard. I mean, his writings, he was there someplace where very few go. But in this book, and it's a great reference book, every one of these entities you could pray to if you want. Don't know why you'd want to pray to them. My thing is I don't want to pray to anyone. I don't mind having a conversation, like, get to know you. If it's anything like in this realm, there are going to be a lot of spirits that I just don't like, and they don't like me. That's fine. The ether is pretty big. They say it's unlimited. But this is a good book because I like how he goes about this. He really brings out, the author of this, and in their research to really bring out what these gods were. Who were they? And from all different religions, from all different mindsets across the world. And this one I do have in PDF. And if you really are on this seriously, I mean, this is about authority. Your authority. And I hope that when you start commanding spirits, and there's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. I said them, listen, they want something to do. And just make sure that you believe in your name. You see, that's a big problem because you will be challenged to ask, who are you? Now, I simply say, I am Robert Wayne Steiger. I am a healer. I'm a manifester. And I'm a powerful spirit being. Now, either we can talk, or if you want to another way, right? Yeah. I mean, As I asked yesterday, some very few people ever comment. So what are spirits? What are these entities? What are these demons, these angels? Are they human? Are they homogeneuses of some kind? Genesis means species. So for homo, man, we have a whole subset of genuses that have predated us. Were they controlled by these deities, these entities? Were they aware of them? We know that in many cases, we have found evidence that they made sacrifices to them, which then you get, well, was that really the entity doing this, or was this man? It's weird. I've been involved in mass crusades where you bring large amount of people together and you are singularly focused. In this case, these were healing crusades. And when you have, and I'll break out of this, we got more to do here. When large amounts of people, I'm talking thousands of people, largest one I was involved in was over 20,000 people. You bring that much concentrated psychic energy together, and you're going to have miracles, and they'll manifest right and left. So who's doing that? I've seen limbs grow back. I've seen the dead raised. So how is this happening? Who is behind this? It can't be this thing that we call Jesus Christ in a religion that even if the rabbi did live, would have said, never make a religion after me. But folks, I've seen it. Now, I've seen miracles take place as well at 35,000 feet. I was at one time an elite frequent flyer, more miles than I care to even think about. And I noticed a phenomenon because I was always, had enough miles, I always got pre-boarding. But I also noticed that there was a lot of other people on crutches, wheelchairs, needing help walking. And the most interesting phenomenon is that when we landed at our destination, there was suddenly a healing that had taken place. Those that needed wheelchairs to get on the plane walked without any assistance at all. The crutches suddenly were being carried in one hand. The canes were gone. And I don't even think anyone was really thinking about it. It's true. Every bit of what I just said is true. But getting more seriously, don't call me Shirley, call me serious. I worked for Concerts West and worked some pretty big venues. And I saw miracles take place in that environment as well. Now, granted, it was aided by, good music, good drugs, and, libations. But nevertheless, so what is the difference? Now, if in both cases, I don't think that there is, because if there is a higher source in this spiritual world, then I would say in both instances, crusade, concert, the same thing is going on. I don't know. They say that Jimmy Page, guitarist for Led Zeppelin, is a master wizard. In fact, they got to be where they were because of his magic. It says that he actually invoked Crowley. He moved into Crowley's house, bought it. Who knows? Brandy says, deception everywhere. It's so true. There is deception everywhere. So we get into this whole thing about quote unquote demon possession. This is an interesting book, paper, by the way. It talks about from a philosophical, non-religious point of view of looking at the study of demon possession. Now, it's interesting because I will tell you this. There are 3 forms of possession. The first one is oppression. If you are feeling oppressed, I can guarantee you it is a spirit entity. The next stage of oppression is depression. A person who is depressed is literally in the spirit realm, literally being forced down upon. And depression brings a whole host of other unwanted entities with it. The last is full-blown possession. And that is happening more and more today. I would dare say that there are more and more people who there was at once just one occupant in the vassal. Now there are many. And there are many stories that can be related to that. But here is the point. What is taking place here? How did this happen? In this book here, I love it from the fact that he comes in here and traces back, where did all these demons really come from? Think about it. Prior, if you went back to the 1st century and began to look at the culture, there were a number of cosmopolitan cities back then. There was Ephesus, there was Corinth, there was Egypt. I know Egypt is a country, but you understand my point. Rome, and interestingly enough, Judea was right in the center of the crossroads. And so many cultures, as a result of Alexander the Great, bringing in many different beliefs. Now, the thing about demons is that it's really a modern phenomenon. Now, that seems weird, but what we have known about the history of demons primarily comes from the Dark Ages. And what they did, and I want to stop because I really want to see the chat room. What they did, interesting, I'm just catching on the story. So demonology is really the invention of Catholicism, the church. And if you want to take it back, it goes back into, the early days of how Christianity came about, with a myriad of different religions and myriad of different gods and different beliefs. And the way that we have accepted it now, because if you go back in the Old Testament, you really don't find, in fact, you don't find virtually anything about demons. So by the logic of this, I'm then dealing with something that was made up. Now, maybe they had substance of where they got these from. Maybe they had knowledge of the ancient ones. Now, I believe that they existed. I think in much of the Sumerian folklore, all the way to the early tribes of Israel, dealing particularly with the Mesopotamian, Babylonian influence, that we are introduced to these subsets of gods. The Hindus, with their influence, is a culture and a belief system of a total different reality of species of these are not human, but they are in fact bipedal, but they are considered to be gods, I believe, because of advanced technology. I believe that they were travelers of the stars. That's just my opinion. So we brought into this new religion that now it's contaminated the entire world. And what they brought with this was their whole plethora of little helpers. I mean, if you think about that, that's really what we're talking about. And so they brought the stories because they had to change, particularly the Jewish occultism. Jewish occultism is all about spirits. And now they take on the modern name of demons and etc. But the interesting line through all of this, folks, is that today I do believe we've created them. They may never have existed, but we created them. I've taught you how you can create your own servitor. It's real. Golems are real. The dens are real. And if you die, you are hoping that your consciousness, your spirit, will transcend the physical death and that you will be wherever. So all of this means that then if, let's say you die and you don't have anything on really believing in yourself, believing in your own authority, so you get over there, and by all estimates, they're not all humans. I don't know what they are. We'll find out. All of us will. But the thing is, do you have the authority to say no? Many people report in near-death experiences being drawn to this light. They say they immediately feel this warmth. It's a surrender type of feeling. That's danger to me. So, will you have the authority to say no? And will that authority even account for anything? Don't know. Yeah, I do. At least I have my idea. I'm sure you have yours. What's going on, chat room? It's an interesting ISBE. I believe that they continue on. Yeah. I mean, let's just look at this. ISBE said, what happens to those demons we create after we die? It's a very good point. You actually are a creator, ISBE. You are a God. Now, I learned that in the deepest part of my Christian indoctrination. I knew we were gods. I mean, that's what they said back in the Old Testament, and then it's repeated again in the book of Hebrews, 1:14 to be exact. Did I not say that you were all gods? And were not all angels, messengers sent to minister to the heirs of the true inheritance? So I knew these things. When I moved into my house here, now I was still very much into the belief system, but I walked this property and I knew that I had legions of spirit entities, but I put them in every place on my property and I commanded them to not allow any harm to enter in. And you know, they're still on the job to this very day. I also came in and laid hands on every wall in my house. Number one, to cleanse it, but more importantly, to perform my own exorcism. of casting out any energy, residual energy, from the prior occupants. And boy, was that a smart move I did there, because when I found out who the prior occupants were here, all right, so what am I doing? How is this any different than me taking command of angelic or demonic beings? I mean, we put the name there merely because of the team we're on. I look at them as simply as spirit entities. Now, there is a book let me get this one pulled up, and because it helps on this one. All right, here we go. Oh, I can see it, but you guys can't. Sorry, y'all. All right, let me get this thing up here. So in this one, it says, what does it mean when people believe they are confronted by the supernatural in their everyday life and understand it to be demonic? Now, isn't it interesting? Anything that has to do with the paranormal apparently is evil. Rarely do you see anything that's considered to be angelic. All right. He said in this article, he says they follow the social rather than the theological definition of exorcism. That is, exorcism is defined as a curing technique against evil spirits that have taken over a possessed person, an animal, or an object. This definition is in line with the work of sociologists of religion who tend to use a methodical, agnostic approach when conducting research. This means, for example, that we do not analyze the veracity of these claims from a theological perspective. Now, this is really interesting because in the study in demonology, in spirit entities, they can take possession of objects. It's well known that if you visit Hawaii, particularly on Mauna Leo, you don't take anything off of that volcano, that area. I mean, check it out. People had, many tourists would take rocks. They would mail them back within a couple of months. The tourism board over in Hawaii, it's a real problem. They have all these rocks. Why? Well, the Hawaiian Islands have there is a deity that rules those islands. We got married over there. And as we began to explore some of the less populated part of the islands, we were finding all these drawings of these beings. And you can sense them. I paid them my respect because I am a sojourner on their claimed territory. It is said in demonology study as well that the original gods that came here were a group, and that there were 10 gods that divided the earth up into 10 kingdoms. And within each of these 10 kingdoms, each one of these gods had their own court, their own armies, their own servants, etc. And it says that no man knows the true number of which each kingdom of these entities had. So that right there alone kind of parlays into many of the belief systems. Anyway, we'll get into this later because there is some real interesting case studies here on what is then occurring into a human being who is exhibiting signs of supernatural strength, can speak in a foreign language, many cases dead languages, that have the ability to levitate, to defy the laws of physics. What are we dealing with here? How can a human being suddenly grow extenuating faces that would then begin to break every bone in their body, particularly in facial bones, but yet in these incidences when the entity is less powered, that the bones themselves constrict back to their normal position with no inflammation, no sign of any damage at all. Now, folks, I don't care what you believe, where you come from. This has been documented. It's been recorded. What is going on here? I mean, this defies even physiology of the body itself. So, Emperor Rex says walk-ins. Yeah, these are very powerful beings. I mean, when you see a person levitating off the ground, tell me exactly how that works. I'd like to know. Yeah. How does a person who is frail to begin with literally bend the freaking rails on a hospital bed? You tell me. This is real. This is as real as life gets. And I believe the reason why most people are deathly afraid of this subject is that because they know it's real. Many are afraid to take that journey into the dark night of the soul because they find out they're not alone. It's the most shocking revelation when you look inside and you find another entity looking back at you. How do you deal with that, Mary? Yeah. Susie Q says, the walk-ins can just walk right back out. You got that right, my dear. Much love to you, hon. But anyway, we're going to continue on this. Yeah, I think smudging, yeah, absolutely. Smudging works. It's quite amazing. And when you add your faith, that's the alchemy. You see, your faith is an actual substance. If we could bring it into the physical world, it would look like a ever-changing, effervescent, iridescent object. And the more you grow your faith, the more your faith responds. And when you apply that substance of your faith into anything else that you do, that's where the magic happens. Great. Into Thin Air. Look forward to that. I have, Angel. I have seen the Ed and Lorraine Warren documentary. Yeah. And Ketting as well. Yeah, I mean, interesting. EA, yeah. Oh, man, I'll tell you, I'm going to have to pull out some of my books. Keaton was a guy, Kenyon, excuse me, is another guy that taught me a lot about spirits. And his books were, in many of the religious circles that I was in at the time, didn't want anyone, because I learned very quickly that the power of my voice, and I thought it was like, in the name of Jesus. Well, what I never realized is that it could be in the name of Wayne. They're going to respond to the authority of which that word is basically being infused with. They teach in the police academy and in military police as well, that people will respond, and you can be 4'3", but if you project your voice with the authority and the command, it will stop crowds. They'll stop immediately in their place. Why? Because there's authority and command behind the voice that's speaking that. If you can take that same approach into the spiritual realm, man, what'll actually start happening, I know I've gone over, you'll actually have spirit beings wanting to be with you. They will literally hang out just to be next to you. And I don't mean one, I don't mean 10, tens of thousands. It's crowded over there, folks. It really is. All right, everyone. Much love to all of you. Thank you. Thank you for hitting the like button. Yeah, easy for me to say. Check out the Steiger perspective tonight. Yeah, again. It's nice to be able to go to a format where there are no censors. Just me. All right, folks, I'll be here tomorrow. We're going to continue to pick this up. I thumbed out to, well, thank you. Thank you. That's very kind. Y'all are really good. It's a groovy crowd. I keep saying that. Y'all the best. Absolutely the best. All right. Much love to you. Favor be upon all of us. And I always speak it in abundance. I mean abundance, the expression is pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So if you get this, if you have, for instance, and they said, and then the scripture actually says they will give into your bosom. And where that comes from is that back in the day when they wore robes, is your bosom was considered how much you could hold out with your hand with your robe, and then they would fill it in with grain. So now figure out pressed down, shaken together, and running over. That's the type of favor I'm talking about. Yes, the Islam, yeah. Oh, we got so much to talk about because, some of the footage I've seen of the Islamic jinn, baby. Listen, if they want that place, fine with me. I'll kick your ass. All right, folks.